authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Now, they might have been state level crimes, but they're not, like we keep having to go back to. They didn't charge Diddy in the state. They're charging him in the federal court. So let's bring up some federal type shit here.
Enterprise. They weren't expecting that answer.
Did they say what he did?
No, they moved on fast from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the question that they didn't know the answer to. That Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the free calls. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in this free calls, now you have it coming out of her own mouth. While it's taking place, she's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash. Was asked to in cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the Enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell.
Okay, but what? What are the crimes? He could have been fucking jaywalking across the street. What's the crime? Trying to hurry up and get Diddy one of them motherfucking Manhattan pies that nigga be eating. That he had the making of the band stars trying to go get. They had to walk a country mile across New York City to go get that shit. What was the fucking crime? There's petty crimes and then there's high-level crimes. What are they? So what? He said he committed crimes while he worked for Bad Boy Enterprises. A lot of us have done crimes while we worked our fucking job. Was it enough to go to get you a RICO? What you got going on? You see what I'm saying? So what are the crimes? So what he said that shit, that wasn't no bombshell for the defense. What were the fucking crimes that he committed while working for Bad Boy? Because if it wasn't to the level of a RICO charge, what are we talking about?
Because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes under that.
What is it? What are the levels that you're on? If it was somewhere like, oh, okay, Diddy, I don't know. He had me go down there and, you know what I'm saying, extort somebody out of some money because Diddy felt like he owed them money. And if they didn't give it to me, I was going to break their leg. Now, that's something you can start looking at. Oh, okay, yeah, Diddy might have been RICOing. But if it's some bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Like some low-level petty drug crimes or something. Did he have me go pick up a couple of ounces or something for a freak off? That's not RICO. That you can maybe try to indict somebody on a state charge, but on a RICO, you got to start getting up into the kilograms and tons to fuck with RICO charges. Like, what are the crimes? Was he somebody that actually transported people across state lines against their will, and Diddy made him do that? Then that's the trafficking. But if he drove to go pick up a prostitute because Diddy said, go pick that hoe up over there, she's coming with me tonight, we finna have a freak off, where's the crime? Other than he paid for a prostitute. Like, what are y'all saying? Where's the crime?
What criminal enterprise? They weren't expecting
anybody
that.
can say that shit. I can say a lot of shit. Anybody can say any goddamn thing. That doesn't make it true. And it doesn't make it to the level of whatever y'all are trying to persecute somebody to that extent of. What's the fucking crime? I want to know what the crime is. Maybe it is a RICO, but y'all ain't said nothing.
Answer.
Did they say what he did?
Thank
No,
you.
they moved
Hello.
on.
Hello. Did they say what it was?
Ask from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the
What's
question.
the bombshell? If you don't drop the bomb, how you gonna drop Diddy in jail? How? The bomb is when you actually put that nigga in. That's the boom. If you don't fucking say what it is, then it's nothing. You have nothing to think about because there's nothing to go on.
The answer to.
Which is a cardinal sin for any defense attorney. You don't know the answer, don't ask a question because you get stuff like that could bury your case.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Brian Buckmeyer.
Why? What do you mean? If he was to say, okay, Diddy made me do XYZ, say it was the level of a RICO, prove it. Prove that Diddy made you, as a part of this syndicate, underground enterprise of a RICO charge, made you do things like this. Show us the fucking proof of what that looks like. You can say anything out of your mouth, but where's the proof at? That would have been the boom for the defense to be like, told you y'all didn't have shit that nobody can substantiate and put no evidence on it, that Diddy did these things that y'all are trying to say to put him in fucking federal prison.
I want to thank you both for being with us. Coming up, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online when we come back.
Okay, so we got Georgie Murray on Kick saying, I love your Kick channel already. You got a few engagers and followers. Keep up the good work. Contact me if you want to collab. I'll think about it, Georgie. Thank you for chatting and becoming a sipper. Make sure you go over there and follow me on Kick, okay? So where are we with this, y'all? I also wanted to throw in here while we are just, catching up on day 10 through 12. Diddy's daughters graduated from high school. So between all the myths of him and everything else that is going on, they graduated from high school. Okay, that is a big accomplishment, especially considering what they've been under this past year. But yes, they did graduate from high school. We're going to tap in, take a look at what that looked like for Diddy's daughters during their graduation of 2025.
Jesse Combs. Delilah Combs.
A major milestone for the Combs twins, their high school graduates.
We are so proud. You guys don't understand because this is
graduating from high school this year amongst the Diddy trial. Okay, they are graduating high school while their dad's in prison, or not prison yet, or hopefully, if he's not found convicted, then he'll go to prison. Whatever. Amongst all this mess that Diddy's doing, okay?
a big deal.
Jesse and Delilah's friends and fam capturing the moment on Instagram, all to celebrate their achievement. Now, this all comes amid their dad, Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing sex trafficking and racketeering trial.
We know that Sean Combs' twin daughters were having their prom celebration this weekend. Now as we're in week 2, not the same presence. There are a few people that are obviously there in support of Combs.
After being courthouse fixtures week 1, the girls sat out week 2 to wrap up their senior year on the West Coast, as Diddy maintains his innocence back east.
With each witness, we get a better understanding and picture of what the prosecution is saying, because, you know, these are their witnesses that they're calling, but the defense always has this opportunity to sow doubt into the credibility of each person, or just try to make a case, obviously, for Sean Combs. So it becomes this sort of back and forth, and the details some days are very interesting, fascinating, and honestly sometimes hard to even report on, but I think we just are all waiting to see where is this going? You know, and I hear a lot of people commenting, where's the sex trafficking? Where's the racketeering? And when you hear that a trial is going to last this long, 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to be a bit of a slow, you know, road to the very end.
Right, that was Diddy's daughters, Delilah, and the other one, I don't remember her name, so sorry. They're twins. Diddy's twin girls graduated from high school this year, 2025. Okay, so let's get into some more Diddy updates and hear what people are predicting during and following the trial. Remember, when you guys come in, let's check out TMZ. Remember, when you come into the chat, the room, please get your teacups up, get them filled up, and like and subscribe. We are working through into the afternoon on the Diddy day 10 through 12. Now we're going to tap in with TMZ and hear what they've been having to say over the last couple of days. And yeah, let's listen. Whenever my internet gets up.
TMZ Live, Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So, allegations this morning in the Diddy trial of dirty pool on the part of prosecutors for trying to poison the jury.
So dirty, according to Diddy's defense, that they demanded a mistrial in this whole case, which, as you can imagine, caused quite an uproar in court and a lot of arguing about this. It all has to do with Kid Cudi's car and the fire that was set off in his Porsche. The investigation into all of this.
So what happened here is that you know that there was testimony about a burglary at Kid Cudi's house.
About the month before the fire.
Right. And that that Diddy and an assistant had basically broken into Cudi's house, found a gift that Cudi was going to give Cassie. And there's evidence Diddy was there. The Cudi took a fingerprint from
the investigators did.
Well, Cudi gave the fingerprint to the investigator.
Right.
It was a fingerprint that was on the door, and it was of an unknown woman, but they had a fingerprint. What the prosecution tried to do was insinuate that they could take that fingerprint and tie it to a fingerprint that was on the arson attack on the Porsche. Well, guess what? Cudi's fingerprint that he took off that door was gone.
Was destroyed.
Gone.
At some point, that after it was in police custody, that was destroyed. And when the prosecution raised that during the testimony from an arson investigator, the defense said, hold on a second, it's like the scene is, wait, you're out of order. This whole court's out of order. They were very upset and felt that this was grounds for a mistrial because they had what they felt is the prosecutors were insinuating Diddy somehow had something to do with the destruction.
Which is sort of like losing the Cassie video in 2016 at the Intercontinental.
Yes. Yes.
There's two big issues with presenting this kind of testimony to the jury. One, they might think you're trying to draw a connection where you have none. You have one set of fingerprints and you're testifying about another set of fingerprints that you can't actually connect. The other problem is this had only happened around 8 months before that evidence was destroyed. So it plants the seed, according to Diddy's defense team, that Diddy was somehow behind the destruction of evidence, maybe paid off an LAPD official. And you remember during the jury selection process, a lot of people said that they thought Diddy was a rich and powerful person who could make things go away.
Yeah, and the defense is saying the prosecution is playing into that conspiracy theory that maybe is already out there in the jury pool.
Yeah, but there's no evidence that Diddy paid anybody off or anything.
No, which is their point. Make them sort of
Right.
prejudice against Diddy, just the mere thought in front of them. It's hard to unring the bell.
It seems like a small, insignificant thing that the defense is saying.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's insignificant.
No, because clearly people think that. I mean,
the
there's
rule for the prosecution in this is like a nothing thing.
Yeah, well, you're right that the judge just said, "Hey, jurors, don't listen to that testimony." Struck the testimony, but didn't declare a mistrial.
Let's hold on. Get real for a second. What the prosecution is saying or insinuating, according to the defense, is Diddy knew those fingerprints were going to incriminate him via some associate and connect him to the arson and then the burglary.
And by the way, there was also testimony from an LAPD officer that the car, they had a photo and they saw the car that was, or an SUV that was parked in front of the house led back to, it was owned by Bad Boy. So again,
but that's at least hard evidence. But the insinuation is that Diddy destroyed the fingerprint because it incriminated him in the arson and connected him to the burglary.
I have a very important question.
It's an
I have a very important question.
There's reasonable doubt here.
It is an insinuation, but here's my question. Did the LAPD officer offer any explanation why evidence from an investigation that was less than a year old, that was at that point
was
7, 8
destroyed.
months, why was it destroyed? Now, I'm not insinuating anything, but if I'm on the jury, I want to know why was it destroyed?
Well, let me tell you, they watch CS.
Point, though, Charles. It's a great point, because why was evidence that's so fresh destroyed? This isn't a cold case from 25 years ago where you're clearing out the decks for new evidence coming in. This is a very fresh case.
Yeah, the arson investigator who mentioned that they were destroyed, he said it was strange that they were. He would have needed to sign off on something like that, and somebody went around him and did this.
So when was it? What year? This is important. What year was it destroyed? And what year was the? And what year was the arson?
The arson was in January of 2012, and the burglary was December of 2011. So
okay,
about 8 months.
So here's the thing, and people in the jury watch CSI. The statute of limitations had not run.
This is very true.
The statute of limitations had not run. Why would they destroy evidence when it's still a live case that can be prosecuted if they get more evidence, especially when it involves a celebrity as big as Diddy? Why would something that critical be destroyed?
Why do I feel like, as you are speaking right now, you are making the defense's case for a mistrial?
I'm saying that it's powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful. I don't.
So who destroyed it and why?
Well, by the way, the bottom line here is the judge refused to declare a mistrial. There was no mistrial, but the judge did do something that I always think is interesting in a trial. The judge said that the jury gave them instructions they cannot consider any of the testimony about the fingerprints, either at the burglary or at the fire.
That's the biggest crock of all.
So so the jury's going to act like they.
The biggest crock of all trials is telling the jury, don't listen to something you just heard, but disremember it, expunge it from your brain. It's not practical, but it's something the judge has to do.
Plus, the defense made such a big stink about it that you got to think, oh, why are they raising this?
Exactly, it makes it even
worse.
worse.
Something must have happened. They got rattled.
People's brains are not like an Etch-a-Sketch, and the reality here is that on appeal, this could come up because look. If the and look, I think it is interesting. Why was it destroyed? Because look, a lot of people are going to say that Diddy also destroyed the original video at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016. So if he's capable of doing that, did he destroy the fingerprint, or did he pay somebody off, to destroy the fingerprint in 2011 or 12? And, look, there's no proof that happened, but how does the jury
not to
how does the
make
jury
that
not
leap?
That's right.
How do you
That
bring
is
it up
right.
on appeal if you don't know what the answer is?
No, you bring up the prejudice to their client.
Yeah,
what
that's
you do
exactly
is you
right.
preserved it for appeal, and you say the judge overruled me, didn't declare a mistrial. That was an error, and now they have a grounds for appeal. I'd be interested to see if he loses and gets convicted, what they do with this.
I'm Brooke. I'm from the UK. I think the defense team is just scrambling. I think it's clearly obvious. Diddy is a powerful man. It's within his power to get these things done behind the scenes. People have known about him for years. There's been rumors for years. I'm not even in the country, and I've known there's rumors about this man for years. I think he's clearly guilty. We've seen it. The public knows it. Let's just get justice done and get justice for these women, please.
Well, there's something called a trial, right? And you kind of want to go through the trial before you
guilty.
Yeah, you don't want to skip over the trial part.
That's not how it works in this country, or even in yours.
We have sort of trial-related news.
Yes, good news for Cassie. We broke the story yesterday that she was in a hospital in the labor unit, and what's supposed to happen in a labor unit happened. She had the baby, her third child, with Alex Fine, and the baby was born sometime Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon. And we're told that although the baby arrived slightly early, maybe like within days, mom and child are doing just fine. We do not know the gender yet.
Do not know the gender.
She was the star witness in this Diddy case just a couple weeks ago, and even a judge had noticed that she was ready to pop, and he noted that they were going to limit her testimony because they were concerned she was going to be giving birth any day. So at least baby is here, baby is healthy, and all is well.
Okay, we are going to move on.
All right, that was some updates from TMZ. I think we're gonna just keep the ball rolling with TMZ, y'all. Seeing what's going on. Then we're gonna move on over to US versus Diddy. TMZ presents throughout the entire trial, right? Okay.
And furthermore, you had the LAPD officer testifying that those fingerprints from Cuddy's house disappeared, that they were destroyed. Hey everybody, Charles here, and day 11 of Diddy's trial brought a bombshell in terms of a mistrial, or at least the defense made a motion for a mistrial, one that was shot down, but not before some very tense moments in court. So we're going to get to the mistrial because what it's really about is the destruction of evidence, and the defense says that the prosecution played a little dirty by trying to make the jury think that Diddy paid off cops or someone in law enforcement. I'm going to get to all that in a moment, but let's start with kind of, I don't want to say comic relief, because certainly he was testifying about very serious things, but Cassie's friend, Deontay Nash, who was also her celebrity stylist, he also did styling for Diddy, provided a little lighthearted moments just in the way he described a few things. There was a photo that was a prosecution exhibit. There's a photo of Deontay in some glasses. There's a blue background. It looks like a very stylish kind of headshot. And they asked him, is this an accurate depiction of what you looked like back in the time period we were talking about? And he said, not even close. The prosecutor said, it's a glamour photo? He says, yes, I look amazing. So that drew some laughter in the courtroom. So that was the lighthearted part. Then he got into what he witnessed, and that clearly was not lighthearted. Talked about seeing Cassie being abused. He talked about was asked what Diddy would call Cassie when he was around them. Remember, he spent a lot of time around both of them, styling them for different events, for award shows. And he was asked what names Diddy used for Cassie. He said, bitch, hoe, CC, baby girl, and slut. The prosecutor said, how would Cassie react to these names? And Deontay said she would be very sad. He talked about a moment when there was an award show. This was in 2014, and he had styled her for this. He thought, in his words, said she thought she looked amazing. And then he said Diddy came in and clearly disagreed. Diddy grabbed him, grabbed Deontay, he said, lifted him up, and basically demanded that he change her look altogether, which he then did. So testifying to threats being issued here, like, you didn't get this right, physically shakes him up and says, do a better job. So he testifies about that. Now, in fact, yes, it was actually the Oscars, I should say. There was an Oscars after party. And he said that Diddy picked him up and threatened him, and then he changed Cassie's hair, and I guess everything was okay at that point. So that was Deontay Nash. And by the way, at the end of the day, he was being cross-examined by Diddy's defense. He's going to be back on the stand to start the day tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. Now, the big bombshell, as I said at the top here, was about this motion for a mistrial. Diddy's defense took issue with the testimony of two people, LAPD officer Christopher Ignacio and LA Fire Department officer Lance Jimenez. They were both testifying about evidence having to do with Kid Cudi. Here we are again, 2 days of testimony after Kid Cudi, and all of this still keeps coming up. What they were testifying about were their investigations into the break-in at Cudi's house, and then also the arson, the car bombing of Cudi's Porsche. And the LAPD officer said that the only evidence they collected from Kid Cudi's house, sorry about that, get a little tongue-tied. So the only evidence they collected from Kid Cudi's house were two things. The officer says when he pulled up to the house, he saw a black Escalade pulling away from the house, and he noticed the license plate. He didn't stop the car because at that time he didn't know there was a crime that had been committed, but he took note of the license plate. Later, he ran that license plate and said it did come back to Bad Boy Records. That's one thing. The other thing, and what's interesting about this, is that evidence was not collected by police. It was collected by Cudi. He said that there were fingerprints taken from the door, from a door handle at Cudi's place. But that evidence, those fingerprints were collected by Cudi and then turned over to police. But he testified about those fingerprints. Then you have the fire department officer testifying about a fingerprint that they got from the Porsche. And he never connects the dots, but it certainly was made to seem to the jury like the fingerprints collected at the car might match the fingerprints collected at Cudi's house. The reality is they didn't. They were not a match. And furthermore, you had the LAPD officer testifying that those fingerprints from Cudi's house disappeared, that they were destroyed. Now, why they were destroyed, the LA Fire Department officer said, I don't know why it would have been destroyed. That's the kind of thing that I would have to approve before it was done. And once that testimony came out, well, you had the defense standing up and saying, this is prosecutorial misconduct. We want a mistrial declared. And that started a whole discussion about why they thought this was a mistrial. They think, the defense, Diddy's attorneys, think that the prosecutors brought up these fingerprints knowing that they were not a match, but brought them up just to raise that in the jury's mind that maybe it is, and that's the evidence that says Diddy one broke into Cuddy's house and also was responsible for for firebombing his car. Remember, they don't match. So the defense is saying, look, prosecutors know they don't match, but they brought that up anyway. And further, then they bring up this thing about the fingerprints from Cuddy's house being destroyed. They're making it sound as if Diddy maybe had something to do with this, that Diddy potentially paid off someone to destroy that evidence. And the defense said, look, we already know that this is an issue. It's sort of a myth that's out there because they know this from jury selection, that one of the questions that was put to all the potential jurors and some of the jurors who were even serving is, do you think that really wealthy celebrities can pay their way out of trouble? And there were people who said, yes, they do believe that. So that's what the defense was so upset about. They said they're putting all these seeds in the heads of the jurors to make them think that our client is paying off people and that he had anything to do with destruction of evidence. We want a mistrial. Well, they didn't get it. And that's why I think you got to say that the winners today were the prosecutors. The judge said, I am not declaring a mistrial. We've gotten too far into this. What the judge did say was he instructed the jurors to ignore all of that evidence, that they should not consider any of the evidence about the fingerprints from the car or from Cuddy's house. Just forget it. Now, let's be real. I mean, the judge can say that to the jurors. You forget it. It never happened. You can't consider it. But they know, they heard it, and they also saw how the defense reacted to it. That's got to have some impact on them. And that's potentially, if Diddy is convicted and he's looking for grounds for an appeal, remember this day, because this is going to be one of the things that they would certainly bring up as a reason for an appeal, and that this should have been declared a mistrial. They didn't get that today, but maybe it will help them down the road. But again, the winner here is the prosecutors, because there was no mistrial, and they got the jury to hear a lot of evidence about these two incidents. Plus, they heard more evidence of Diddy being abusive, not only to Cassie, but to other employees and threatening other employees, which of course all goes toward racketeering. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, Deontay Nash back on the stand, and also supposed to be Mia, a former assistant, who is actually referred to as
while my computer's catching up to all this tea that's been spilled, remember, sippers, when you come into the room, put your teacups up and like, subscribe, get comfortable. Whenever your teacup's empty, just sit tight, because we are keeping the tea pouring, okay? We are looking into more stuff about Diddy between trial days. Okay. Let's jump into it with another update from TMZ. Thank you, TMZ. Let's see. What's tea about Diddy? Diddy. Whenever my computer catches up, please be patient, sippers. We know Rome wasn't built in a week, and neither were these computers. So, okay, a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay, so we already got updated about the dismissal of the mistrial. We're updated about that, right? We know about that. So. Okay. They're not really talking much more about what we already know. Okay. Let's get into some law and crime. She's boots on the ground for law and crime.
By the way, just to give you an insight about what's been happening, a lot of scheduling issues between the prosecution, the judge, the defense. They want to stay on schedule. They're flying people in and out, witnesses. The direct is maybe going longer, the cross is maybe going longer. So they're trying to figure it all out, particularly with the witness today, Mia, alleged victim number 4. Let's talk about it. Let me bring in right now Elizabeth Milner, our long crime reporter who was in that courtroom for the testimony of Mia. Elizabeth, so good to see you.
I don't know what's going on. My computer's lagging, dragging, and being stagnant. Thank you. You want some?
It's an important witness, right? Because this is somebody who is going by a pseudonym. This is alleged victim number 4 in this case. And she has described not only what her working relationship was like with Sean Combs, what this environment was like, but she claims that she, was a victim of both physical and sexual abuse. Talk to us about what Mia said so far.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, Mia came onto the witness stand right after Deontay Nash. So she comes in, and I'm going to be very kind of careful as far as how I'm describing her, because she is testifying under a pseudonym, and you can tell a little bit inside the courtroom why she is doing that. When she walks inside the courtroom, she keeps her head down. She doesn't look towards the defense table. She doesn't really look at us in the gallery. She just makes a beeline to the witness stand. And even while she's testifying, Jesse, she's very soft-spoken. She's very quiet often at times. So you can feel just her apprehension just about everything as far as testifying goes. Even while answering the prosecution's questions, she's keeping her head down from what I can see over in the gallery. But you can just feel just the nervousness from her as far as testifying. And even when she gets off the stand, she doesn't look at the defense table. She just walks past the gallery. Her family and her support system go right after her, and then she goes over into a private room. But just as far as just some of the testimony that she had talked about today, she did describe that Diddy did take violence out on her too. Mia described that Diddy would throw things at her. He would throw her against a wall. One time he even slammed her arm into a door, and then even sexually assaulted her more than once.
Yeah, and let's just wait for this siren to go down. Very, very busy street. This is somebody we had anticipated, right?
Uh-oh. Now, Mia is supposed to be, sorry guys, I'm eating chips and tuna fish. Somebody that is a Jane Doe. So Mia, I believe, is not her real name, right? Name, so on. She testified, according to Miss Milner, that is boots on the ground for law and crime, that she was actually assaulted by Diddy several times while being his personal assistant. Not good testimony at all. Okay. Not good testimony at all. Oh.
She's important for multiple reasons. She's important not only to corroborate what Cassie Ventura has said, but if you're talking about a pattern of abuse towards women, put aside the sex trafficking count for...
No. We are not putting aside, Mr. Jesse, the sex trafficking charge. That's probably the biggest charge he has right now against him, is the sex trafficking charge and racketeering. Okay, we're not putting that aside for 1 second at all during the Diddy trial. Because if you're trying to say that that's what it tied into, How can you do that if he didn't first of all, he didn't traffic her into the organization of working for Diddy because she applied and he hired her. Now, if while working for Diddy that occurred, then there you go. But if he aped her, say while they were together one day in a business professional environment or whatever have you, and it happened, can y'all convict Diddy in trafficking because he did that to her and put him in federal prison under a RICO charge for that? Or should he have been tried in a state level court? That's my questions.
Play back in my ear, by the way. Putting aside the sex trafficking count for Cassandra Ventura, what we're also talking about is the racketeering charge. And we just got word that prosecutor Madison Smizer said her direct examination is likely going to take the rest of the day. What do you anticipate she's going to say, Elizabeth, from what we've heard so far?
Well, I definitely think they're going to get into more of just the violence that Mia had witnessed while working for Diddy, but also being Cassie's best friend, a role that she still has to this day. The two are really close friends, something that Deontay Nash even confirmed while he was testifying. But yes, the direct examination is expected to last throughout the day. Even right before I came out to chat with you, Jesse, there was a little kind of angst, I would say, from the defense because essentially the government is saying that Mia has to be off the stand by the weekend. So tomorrow is Friday, so they're hoping that they're able to finish her direct examination today, go over to the cross tomorrow. But the problem is that sometimes the cross examinations do take maybe twice as long as the direct testimony. And it's been a kind of a sticking point that a lot of us have been kind of noticing, especially just sitting in the gallery. But Mark Agnifilo kind of took a little bit of offense to just being given a time frame as far as how long this cross examination goes. The thing is, Jesse, he's not going to even be the one doing the cross-examination. It's actually going to be Brian Steele doing the cross-examination against Mia, or for Mia, I should say. But the defense was pretty upset about it because they felt like the government was telegraphing the time frame for witnesses, especially since the government said that Mia needed to be off the stand. But from the government's point of view, they're essentially saying this is all for logistics purposes. If we're expecting Mia to not be off the stand by the weekend, then we have to pause our flight scheduling and all of that for the next witnesses that are going to be following up after her. But it seems like from the defense's perspective, they were just really kind of offended just about the time frames that they were given.
And
but
let
the
me
judge
tell
kind of pointed
y'all,
out that
it's not easy to prove 8 cases if you have absolutely no proof but your word of your mouth. Unfortunately. Okay, so I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like with R. Kelly, they double back. Didn't they try R. Kelly twice for the same thing? They had videos of R. Kelly doing it. Now, they said Puff Daddy had, oh, that's a little hard, video in every room of his house, like essentially covering every single corner of his house. He was always recording stuff. Do y'all have that in the cloud of this alleged ape taking place? If it happened at Diddy's house, where did it happen at? Did it happen at the office? Where did it happen at? Because if it is and there's video of it somewhere in the cloud, y'all find it, show it to the jury, and let them decide, what they are going to say that they believe Diddy did or didn't do.
Yeah, the government is doing this, but they're not doing this as a way to kind of slight the defense. They're doing this as kind of a common courtesy for those logistics purposes. And the judge kind of seemed like he took offense to it as well, too, what the defense was telling him. He was saying that it's common courtesy and that even the judge wanted to know these things as far as how long the direct will last, possibly how long the cross-examination will last. And so it seems like kind of a sticking point where the defense may feel like they are being kind of constrained to a certain time frame. But there's never been a moment so far that the judge was like, okay, you got to wrap up this cross-examination after an hour. You got to wrap this up in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. So really, they can just have a free go and just really ask all the questions, maybe questions that they didn't need to ask, but will continue to ask because they have to cross-examine their witness.
I got to talk about Deontay Nash. So obviously we'll continue the conversation with Mia, and there's a lot to break down with our panel of guests. Deontay Nash, important witness, celebrity stylist, right? And he had testified that he was, him and Mia, the only people that actually stepped in to actually intervene in Sean Combs allegedly assaulting Cassandra Ventura, talked about the threats that Combs made towards Cassandra Ventura, talked about that she didn't want to be a part of freak-offs. Very, very important witness. But then it was time for cross-examination today. I wasn't entirely sure what the cross was about and what were the points they were making, other than the fact I think he's still not only in touch with Cassie, but maybe even supplied her the wardrobe that she wore in court. And I think he was still maintaining some sort of communicative relationship with Sean Combs only until a few years ago. So it becomes a question if all these things happened to him and Cassie, and he claims he was also attacked by Combs, that this might go to his credibility. But where exactly did the cross-examination go today of Deontay Nash?
Well, the cross-examination, just honestly, quite frankly, was all over the place this morning. It's first thing in the morning. It was just kind of a lot this morning, I should say. Even just starting off, Xavier Donaldson tells Deontay Nash, "Good morning, how are you?" And Deontay Nash still has that sass, which I absolutely love, and he responded, "Blessed." And so just as far as just kind of the incidents that occurred when it came to the violence, they brought up the bed frame incident, and that was something that Mia testified as well today too, where they were explaining that they were all over at Cassie's apartment. It was Deontay, it was Mia, it was Cassie. They were helping her pack for this trip, and then all of a sudden they hear a knock or a banging on the door, and it was Diddy looking for Cassie. And so essentially Diddy kind of picks Cassie up from where she is. He throws her down. He's essentially attacking her in front of her friends, her stylist, but also Mia is still working for Diddy at this point. But essentially, at this point, Mia and Deontay do step in. As far as Deontay is concerned, Deontay jumps on Diddy's back. Diddy throws Deontay to the ground. Then when Deontay's on the ground, Mia jumps on Diddy's back to kind of stop him. Then all of a sudden, Cassie is essentially on the ground because she had hit her head and busted her head open on this really pointy, sharp bed frame. There was blood everywhere. It was something that even Mia testified again to today. But just as far as the responses, as far as the response is concerned, I should say, that this was just kind of a really big sticking point, I feel like, as far as this particular incident, because it was so violent, because Cassie drew blood in this incident, or not drew blood, but not necessarily, but instead blood was gushing from her head. Mia had to go and get towels, and what ended up happening was a call was made, and essentially Cassie was taken into a plastic surgeon, and they were told that Cassie was drinking during this and that it wasn't a violent encounter that had happened that had caused this type of nash or gash, I should say, as far as just the blood and the amount of blood that was taken, or the amount of blood, I should say, that just gushed from her head, essentially. And so they lied, or not lied, but they essentially said this incident was because Cassie was drinking. She fell down and hit her head. So that was in regards to just the bed frame incident. But yes, Jesse, to your point, it was definitely one of those sticking out moments, especially because you finally see people stepping in, even kind of in a way attacking Diddy for the most part to get him off of Cassie. But even as far as the end of the cross-examination is concerned, yes, Xavier Donaldson was really asking Deontay Nash just about his communications with Diddy in the years even after he stopped working with them professionally. So this was around kind of the 2019 time frame. You see an exhibit photo of this text message between Deontay and Diddy was upset that Deontay didn't tell him that Cassie was seeing the trainer. And who was the trainer? Well, the trainer is Alex Fine, her now husband, who she just had her third child with. And so Diddy used this text message to kind of ask how Cassie was was doing. And I think the defense was kind of pointing out that that Diddy still cared about Cassie even after their relationship, because again, this was 2019. They broke up in 2018. All the D names. Deontay reached out to Diddy about Kim Porter's death and even Andre Harrell's death. Andre Harrell was a central figure in Diddy's life. He was somebody who had mentored him, and you could arguably say that Andre Harrell is kind of the reason that Diddy got to the point where he is as far as success is concerned. Maybe Diddy doesn't think that, but really you could kind of argue that in a way. But then we see another text message kind of going back in time a little bit. This one from January 30th of 2016. And this is where the cross-examination ends, where they were kind of implying that Cassie was secretive. She didn't tell Deontay, who she considers to be a best friend, just about the freak-offs, that he didn't know about these freak-offs until 2013, when they were at just a hotel together and they were hanging out together, and Diddy was threatening to release these sexually explicit videos of him, and just how it kind of ties back to Deontay saying, like, girl, let him release these videos because he's on them too. It kind of relates to that. And so they ended the cross-examination where Xavier Donaldson asked, "You deeply care for Cassie?" And Deontay responded, "Correct. And she kept major secrets from you." And Deontay Nash, in his Deontay Nash way, was like, "Well, I keep secrets from her too. We don't have to tell each other everything." Which, you know, do best friends have to tell each other every single aspect of their lives? I mean, not necessarily. It's not necessarily holding a secret, but I feel like what the defense was trying to point out, that this was this big secret that she wouldn't even tell her closest friends that these types of things even happen.
By the way, before I let you go, Elizabeth, you have Deontay Nash, you have Mia. How is the jury reacting to this testimony?
Well, let me tell you, Jesse, today for Mia's testimony, it was a packed courtroom. And so it was really kind of hard to see because of all the bodies in front of me, just their reaction to everything. But so far, it seems like from what I can see, and that's really kind of the tail end of the jury box, is just that these jurors are doing what they've been doing for the past couple of weeks. Is they're taking notes, they're listening. I couldn't see if there was like an emotional reaction, especially as Mia was kind of talking about the bed frame incident, because for Mia's point of view, it seemed like she was very upset recalling this particular piece of testimony. So I couldn't tell if there was an emotional reaction from the jury. And even from Diddy's side over on the defense table, I could barely see his reaction to things. In between heads, sometimes I would see him jotting down notes or shaking his head, that type of thing, especially when it came to Mia flat out saying that Diddy had sexually assaulted her more than once. But as far as just the jury's reaction overall, it's really hard to tell sometimes with them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a question that came in on YouTube from L. Spelunker. Is anyone else acting shocked? Is anyone acting shocked by all of this in the courtroom? His mom, his kids, the jurors? Does Diddy make any noises or movements? So you're kind of giving us a perspective on what we should be seeing in that courtroom and what we're expecting. Elizabeth, I know you have to head back in there. Thank you so much, as always, for your great reporting, your great detail. We're lucky to have you. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, so we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take your questions. Obviously, a lot to talk about here, including with Mia's testimony. So right now, let me bring on Alexis Rosenberg, trial attorney, federal litigator, and also David Ring, civil trial attorney who has a specialization in sex crimes cases. Thank you both so much for taking the time. David, I'll start with you. Mia, important witness. What are you taking away from her testimony so far today?
Well, it's early in her testimony, Jesse, but so far it seems like a very, very powerful witness for the prosecution. One thing that seems noticeable by people in the courtroom is her demeanor, which is really important. You know, jurors watch the demeanor of witnesses, and this woman doesn't want to be there. She's very soft-spoken. She keeps her head down. And all of that leads to credibility because of the things she's going to talk about. And I think the most important one will be that she was sexually assaulted by Sean Combs.
Got a great question here for you, Alexis. I mean, all these questions are great, but I mentioned before how the judge is trying to keep everybody on schedule, right? There was one thing to say, hey, we got to get Cassandra Ventura in and out of here. She's about to give birth. And guess what? She gave birth, a week? 2 weeks after her testimony? I get it. But the question we have here from Stephen Clark is, Jesse, why is there a timeline on the trial? Seems somewhat rushed to get through to keep to particular timelines. Shouldn't it be as long as it takes type of trial? That's a fair question, Alexis. What do you think?
Well, so judges do have a right to kind of, be the monitor of their courtroom to some extent. I think what the judge is communicating here is really we have coordination issues. We have to fly people in and out. And this happens all the time when you have trials with witnesses. But in this case, you have a lot of witnesses coming from other areas. So to ask the defense how long they anticipate that they are going to need for cross is totally reasonable. The judge is not putting a specific timeline on them. They seem to be it appears to me, laying this out as possible appealable issue, but the judge is making it clear that they're not doing that. We need this for coordination purposes.
By the way, I'll just throw another question to you, Alexis. This is from Amanda Miles. Does the government pay for their hotel and plane flights for the people they call as witnesses?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it is possible that they are paying for their travel expenses to get there.
All right, that was some very riveting updates. Okay, so we're still on it. We're still sipping tea from it, y'all. Let's jump right into the next one. Remember, when you come in to hold your teacup up to get it filled up with this tea we're pouring. And like and subscribe. This just in with Long Crime. Diddy was going to kill his ex-girlfriend on the beach. Who testified to that? Was that Mia? I don't know, but we're going to see. While my computer's catching up to the tea being poured, y'all make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms. Thank you.
Prosecutor says we have subpoenaed from Verizon phone records Ms. Garagos. This is Tenny Garagos referring to Sean Combs' defense counsel. Ms. Garagos has agreed that if Your Honor finds them admissible, you can give them to us and we to them. Garagos responds, that's fine. The judge says, let's get Mia back. So we're going to see the continuation of her testimony. We'll break it down in real time. Okay, here we go. Question from KC. I go to you, Alex. Alexis.
Like I said, we've been live for a couple of hours. It's been raining around my way. I don't know, every time the wind blows, but it will catch up and the tea will be poured.
Is it true jurors make a decision of guilt or not guilty within the first couple of days of trial?
Well, jurors are human. So, appearances and what they're seeing, but they could have an initial opinion and then it can be shifted as testimony comes out. They are supposed to keep an open mind and they're supposed to listen to the testimony. But I think in this case, like David said, I mean, he's coming across with all this testimony as a pure monster, in my opinion. So I don't know if the defense is going to get and be able to shift what they already have in their mind.
That raises a bigger question here, David, right? I've talked day in and day out about the law, about the elements, about all that. You think the jury's going to come back and say,
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.